Have you ever looked back at a painful moment and thought it was destined to happen? Have you ever looked at a brave decision you made and wondered if you really chose it or if life pushed you there? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into one of the deepest questions people ask when life gets confusing. Is our life predestined or do we have choices? And we are not going to answer it with a cold argument. We are going to answer it like a human being who has lived enough to know that both fate and choice feel real at the same time. The first main point is that destiny and choice are not enemies. They can be two layers of the same reality, like the riverbed and the flowing water. The second main point is that karma as cause and effect explains how your freedom works inside limits. You cannot control everything that happens, but you are never powerless because you can always choose your response. And your response plants the next seed. Let me tell you a story that starts with grief and ends with clarity. There is someone named Daniel. Daniel is not a philosopher. He is just a person trying to live a decent life. He works. He loves his family. He wants stability. And he wants meaning. He believes in effort. He believes if you do the right thing, life will make space for you. Then life throws a moment at him that makes his beliefs shake. His father becomes ill. At first it is manageable. A few appointments, some medication, some tired days. Daniel tells himself it will pass. He stays hopeful. Then the illness worsens. Suddenly there are hospital visits, late-night calls, medical words that sound like a foreign language, and the sickening feeling that time is speeding up. Daniel stands beside his father in a hospital room one night. Machines hum softly. The hallway lights are too bright. His father looks smaller than Daniel remembers. Daniel feels fear and love at the same time, and the mind starts asking the big question without permission. Was this destined? If it was destined, why do I feel guilty for the days I did not visit? If it was not destined, why do I feel helpless? Daniel watches his father sleep and feels the ache of not being able to control what matters most. After a while, his father passes. Daniel grieves. The grief comes in waves. Some waves are sharp and sudden. Some are slow and heavy. And inside grief, the mind often searches for a story that can hold the pain. Destiny is one of the stories the mind reaches for. Daniel hears people say, "It was meant to be." He hears people say, "It was his time." He hears people say, "Everything happens for a reason." These sentences are meant to comfort, but sometimes they land like a cold hand. Because Daniel wants to scream, "If it was meant to be, why does it hurt like this? If it was meant to be, does that mean my love does not matter? If it was meant to be, does that mean nothing I do matters?" Daniel becomes angry. Not only at death, but at the confusion. He feels trapped between two terrifying ideas. If everything is predestined, then life is a script and his choices are illusions. If nothing is predestined, then life is chaos and safety is an illusion. Both ideas feel unbearable. This is where wisdom begins. Not in giving Daniel a neat answer, but in helping him hold the paradox without collapsing. Daniel meets an older mentor named Arvind. Arvind is the kind of person who has gentle eyes and an unhurried voice. He does not speak like he is selling certainty. He speaks like someone who has made peace with not knowing everything. Daniel tells Arvind about his father, about grief, about the question of destiny. Arvind listens and then asks Daniel a surprising question. "When your father was alive, did your love matter?" Daniel says, "Of course." Arvind asks, "Did your visits matter?" Daniel says yes. Arvind asks, "Did your kindness matter even though your father still died?" Daniel pauses. He feels tears rise. He says yes, it mattered. Arvind nods. Then notice something. Even if certain events are unavoidable, your choices still create meaning. Your choices still create connection. Your choices still shape the quality of what happened. Daniel frowns. That sounds like you are avoiding the question. Arvind smiles. I am not avoiding it. I am placing it in the right frame. Many people ask, is everything decided? But the better question is, what is decided? What is influenced? And what is chosen moment by moment? Daniel leans forward. He feels something in his chest soften, like the question is becoming workable. Arvin continues. Imagine life like a field. Some parts of the field are given. Your birth, your genetics, your family, the era you live in, many circumstances you never voted for. That is a kind of destiny. But within the field, you plant seeds, your habits, your actions, your intention, your speech, your relationships, your discipline, your compassion. Those are choices. Over time, your choices shape what grows in the field. You cannot plant mango seeds and demand apples. This is cause and effect. This is karma in a practical sense. Daniel understands that, but he still wonders, what about the big events? The ones that feel locked? Arvin says, some outcomes are the result of many previous causes. Some from your own actions, some from others' actions, some from nature. You do not always see the chain. But even then, your response becomes a new cause. The response is always your freedom. Daniel feels a strange relief, because the response is the one thing he can always touch. Now, let me widen the story. Because Daniel is not the only one asking. There is also someone named Lena. Lena grew up in a difficult environment. Instability, conflict, financial pressure, emotional coldness. She learned to be tough. She learned not to hope too much. She learned that wanting can lead to disappointment. As an adult, she carries a quiet belief that life is predetermined and unfair. She thinks people who succeed were simply lucky. People who suffer were simply unlucky. She thinks she has no real choices because every time she tries, something knocks her back. One day Lena meets a friend who invites her to a meditation group. Lena laughs at the idea. Meditation will not change my life. But she goes anyway, mostly to be polite. She sits in the room and feels restless. Thoughts race. She judges herself. She wants to leave. Then the teacher says something simple. You cannot always choose your circumstances, but you can choose your attention. Lena hears that and feels irritated. It sounds like a slogan. But then she notices something. Her attention is always on threat, on what could go wrong, on why things will fail, on how people might hurt her. That attention has become her destiny. Because attention shapes behavior. Behavior shapes outcomes. Outcomes reinforce beliefs. The loop continues. So Lena tries a small experiment. She practices returning attention to breath for a few minutes each day. Not to become enlightened, just to notice her mind. She notices how quickly she predicts failure. She notices how quickly she assumes rejection. She notices how quickly she attacks herself. She notices how her nervous system is always bracing. This noticing is the first crack in predestination. Because if you can notice a pattern, you can interrupt it. And if you can interrupt it, you are not fully trapped. Over months, Lena begins making different choices. Small ones. She speaks up once when she would have stayed silent. She asks for help once when she would have isolated. She applies for something once when she would have assumed she would fail. She sets one boundary. She ends one toxic dynamic. Each choice is small, but each choice plants a seed. Her life does not become perfect, but it becomes different. And different is proof of agency. Now, here is the key idea that ties Daniel and Lena together. Most people are not asking about destiny in an abstract way. They are asking because they want relief from fear and guilt. If everything is predestined, they think they can stop blaming themselves. If everything is choice, they think they can control outcomes and avoid pain. Both are attempts to feel safe. Wisdom offers a third way. Life includes forces bigger than you, and you still have meaningful freedom inside them. That freedom is not total control. It is conscious participation. Now let us make this practical with a metaphor you can feel. Imagine you are sailing. You do not control the wind. You do not control the weather. You do not control the ocean. Those are like destiny factors. But you do control the sail. You control the angle. You control whether you learn skill or drift blindly. You control whether you panic in a storm or respond with training. You control whether you keep steering toward rocks or just course. That is choice. If you deny the wind, you suffer. If you deny your ability to steer, you suffer. The wise sailor respects both. Now let us bring in karma again, because karma is often misunderstood as fatalism. Karma is not a statement that everything is fixed. Karma is a statement that actions have consequences. Intentions shape actions. Actions shape habits. Habits shape character. Character shapes destiny. So karma is the bridge between freedom and fate. It says, you are free to plant seeds, and you will live in the garden those seeds grow into. This is why the question predestined or choice is not either or. It is both and, but in different layers. Some conditions are given, some are shaped, and your internal world is more shapeable than you think, especially through practice. Now let us talk about why people still feel stuck even when they hear this. Because trauma and conditioning can reduce the feeling of choice. When someone has been hurt repeatedly, their nervous system learns helplessness. Their mind learns that trying is dangerous. Their body freezes. In those moments, telling them they have choice can feel insulting. So wisdom must include compassion. Compassion says, your capacity to choose might be small right now, and that is okay. A person in deep anxiety might not be able to choose big actions, but they can choose one breath. A person in grief might not be able to choose joy, but they can choose kindness. A person in depression might not be able to choose motivation, but they can choose one small task, one shower, one message to a friend. Small choices are still choices, and small choices rebuild agency. Agency grows like a muscle. It strengthens through repetition. Now let us return to Daniel, because grief is where destiny questions get sharp. Daniel asks Sarvand, if my father was destined to die then, was there any point in trying to help him? Arvind says, there is always a point in love. Love is never wasted. Love shapes the heart. Love shapes the atmosphere. Love shapes the memory. Love shapes who you become. Then Arvind says something even deeper. Sometimes what is destined is not the event, but the lesson the event invites. Not forced, invited. Daniel sits with that. He realizes his father's illness taught him to prioritize relationships. It taught him to soften pride. It taught him to show up. It taught him humility. It taught him impermanence. He would never choose the illness, but he can choose what he becomes through it. This is how destiny and choice meet. You do not always choose the wave, but you choose how you surf it. Now let us talk about another angle. The fear that if destiny exists, your choices are meaningless. This fear comes from imagining destiny as a rigid script. But many spiritual views describe destiny more like a set of tendencies and conditions, not a detailed screenplay. You might have tendencies shaped by past choices, family patterns, environment, personality. Those tendencies create probabilities, but awareness can change probabilities. When you become conscious, you stop being dragged by tendencies. You begin steering. So destiny can be understood as momentum. Momentum is real, but momentum can be redirected. If you have been angry for years, anger has momentum. If you have been anxious for years, anxiety has momentum. If you have been people-pleasing for years, that has momentum. But momentum is not identity. Momentum can be slowed and reshaped through practice, therapy, discipline, and compassionate honesty. This is why the spiritual path emphasizes practice. Practice is how you translate wisdom into new causes, and new causes create new results. Now let us speak about the idea of surrender, because surrender is often confused with giving up. Surrender is not saying, I do nothing. Surrender is saying, I accept what I cannot control. and I commit fully to what I can control. This is the mature middle. Daniel surrenders to the fact that his father is past. He cannot change that, but he does not surrender to despair. He chooses how to live now. He chooses how to honor his father. He chooses how to treat his family. He chooses how to care for his health. He chooses how to use time. This choice becomes his healing. Lena surrenders to the fact that her childhood was difficult. She cannot rewrite it, but she does not surrender to being trapped by it. She chooses therapy. She chooses practice. She chooses boundaries. She chooses friends who are safe. She chooses to stop repeating the same harmful relationships. That is how she breaks a cycle. Breaking cycles is where destiny changes. Now let us talk about one more powerful idea. Even if you believe in destiny, you still must act. Because action is your role in the unfolding. If a seed is destined to become a tree, it still needs water, sunlight, and time. Water is action. Sunlight is support. Time is patience. So the spiritual question is not, is my life destined? The spiritual question is, am I cooperating with my highest possibility? Cooperating means living in alignment with wisdom, compassion, and integrity. When you do that, you reduce suffering you cause yourself and others. You create better karma. You create cleaner outcomes. You build a mind that can handle uncertainty. That is freedom. Now let me give you a scene that often clarifies the whole thing. Imagine two people lose a job on the same day. Person 1 says, "This is destiny, and I am powerless." They stop trying. They isolate. They numb. They become bitter. Months pass. Their skills decline. Their mood declines. Their opportunities shrink. The job loss became a long dark tunnel. Person 2 says, "This happened. I do not like it. I will grieve it. And I will choose my next step." They update their resume. They ask for help. They rest. They learn. They apply. They take temporary work. They stay connected. Months pass. They find a new path. The job loss became a turning point. Same event, different destiny. The difference was not luck alone. The difference was the choices made inside the event. This is why spiritual teachers emphasize the inner response. Because the inner response is where karma is written. Now I want to speak to you directly. If you are feeling stuck and you keep asking whether everything is predetermined, try shifting the question. Instead of asking, "Is my whole life already decided?" Ask, "What is the next wise choice I can make today?" Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me about my mind, my attachments, my fears, my values?" Instead of asking, "Will life guarantee my outcome?" ask, "Can I act with integrity even without guarantees?" These questions bring you back to agency. Agency is not control of everything. Agency is the ability to participate consciously. Now let us land the lesson in a simple core truth. Life may present you with circumstances you did not choose, but you are always planting seeds through how you respond. Those seeds grow into your habits. Your habits grow into your character. Your character shapes your relationships. Your relationships shape your daily life. Your daily life becomes your destiny. So even if destiny exists in some form, you are still a co-creator. And that is hopeful, because it means you are not trapped in yesterday. You can begin again today. You can choose one small act of courage, one small act of compassion, one small act of discipline, one small act of honesty, one small act of letting go. And that small act is not small in the long run. It is a seed. Thank you for being here with me. Share in the comments what you believe about destiny and choice, and what life experience shaped that belief. And if you are facing something right now that feels destined, share what one choice you still have inside it. Even if it is just the choice to breathe and be kind to yourself. Subscribe to the channel for more long-form stories that turn spiritual questions into practical inner freedom. Like the video if it helps you feel less trapped by the idea of fate. And if you want to support the channel and keep these deep conversations alive, you can join the membership and help this space grow.